What's up, guys? Mitch from RespectMyRegion.com back with another episode of the RMR Podcast. Today, I'm joined by special guest Vince Ning, founder and CEO of Nabis Distribution. How you doing today, Vince?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, man. It's good to be
Awesome.
back.
No, I appreciate you, man. I've been knowing you for a couple years now. Been a little privy to the evolution and growth of Nabis over there. I mean, you guys were still pretty big early on when I came and first checked out the facility, but you guys have grown immensely over these last 3 years. Would you say like the most growth, like the hockey stick part of the growth, or?
Yeah, no, but I mean, I still like to think we're just getting started because if you look at the whole market, it's still
Sure.
got a long way to go. So, while we're growing, the market's also growing. So we're playing catch up.
Absolutely. And we'll get into some other states down the line, but obviously you guys are operating in California right now, which is, the largest market. And even though it's not the most mature in time, I always call California the most mature just in terms of branding and kind of the consumer. But you guys are, I'm look at some of the stats on the website. You guys are 100 different brands are shipping products through Nabis right now?
We got a little over 150. I think we'll probably hit over 200 by end of year. But
Okay.
yeah, we're really proud to be supporting so many small, medium, large operators in the industry, and allowing them to be able to build and their vision for how they want to create products for consumers.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's one of we'll also get into this a little bit later, but distribution is one of the biggest issues in this industry, especially the state that you guys are operating in right now. But before I get into that, I kind of kick every episode off with people's origin story around the plant being cannabis. So whether that's personal or professional, I'm just kind of curious your history within cannabis.
Yeah. So, I mean, Nabis building this company has been certainly my first professional experience in the industry. Prior to this, I just grew up smoking weed and grew up on the East Coast. And actually, the person I started this company with is actually my best friend from home, and we bonded over a couple of joints from here and there. When we went to college, I definitely had my fair share of time being a pothead. And from there jumped into the tech industry. So almost, I guess like if you look back in time, the proportion of time I've spent in the cannabis industry versus the tech industry now is actually far larger, more heavily weighed towards cannabis now, even though in my mind I sometimes feel like I'm still a techie. But I think I guess the history shows I'm more of a cannabis guy now.
Absolutely, but you guys in cannabis, you guys do have a software component to Nabis, right? It is a little bit more than just distribution, putting trucks on the ground. You guys have the marketplace and the software back there. So when
Yeah.
you first thought about getting into the space, like at the conception of Nabis, was distribution and software, were those ideas kind of hand in hand, or did one come before the other in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, when we thought about the vision of the company, we certainly thought we were going to have components of each. But when push came to shove, when we got into the industry, we first put our entrepreneur hat on and thought about what problems could we solve for people in the industry today. And at that time, people, obviously wanted the software and thought that it was a really cool, nice to have. But at the end of the day, people just really needed to ship their products from point A to point B. Because without that, their sales couldn't be made. So, and at the time, I think a lot of the brands at that point hadn't been, pushing huge volumes.
Mm-hmm.
So there didn't need to be a crazy amount of automation at that time. Now, fast forward 4 years in California today in the rec market, we wouldn't be able to run our business the way we do today without any technology. So over the course of, the past few years, it's become a necessity.
Absolutely, and your guys' growth has been quite incredible. I think I first came by the facility, I think like 2018. The original, I think, I don't know if it was the original, but original to my knowledge in Oakland over there near the airport.
Yeah.
And then I kind of saw that, and then I came back a couple years later, saw you guys knock some walls down, kind of took over the entire suite, and then I got a little sneak preview of where you guys are at now with Headquarters, I believe, in the
Yep.
larger Oakland, kind of still near the airport, but a little bit different area. So what's that growth been like? And I know every single time I've physically been by there, you're like, dude, there's just not enough space. There's not enough space.
That's always the case.
You still feel like that's the case right now.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you came by not too long ago, right? And we have pallet racks lining the walls, like every square feet, except for like a back corner where we do all our packing for orders that are going out the next day. But yeah, I mean I guess, we launched that warehouse, beginning of 2021. So it's been about a year and it's just filled up so fast. So now we're actually building out a new 86,000 square feet facility in Central California. So that's going to be, we're calling it the Napa Super Center, taking after the Walmart Super Centers, but it'll be about 4 times the size of any of our warehouses before. Wow. So it'll be a spectacle. So we're going to move most of our inventory there, and we'll be basically drop shipping through the rest of our facilities, so we don't need to store so much inventory on hand for as long. It'll just be like a layover in each of the terminal nodes, for each of the regional nodes rather.
So at that point you'll have NorCal, SoCal, and then you'll have Central California as well?
Exactly.
Okay. And then do you guys have plans to kind of continue to expand another more hubs in the state of California? You feel like those 3 regions kind of have it, at least for now?
I think for now, yeah. We're thinking maybe San Diego. It's becoming, I mean, it's always been a big market, but it's just constantly growing. I think that from a regional standpoint, that might be where we might want to set up our next hub. But if we don't, I think as far as continuing to service more and more of the market here in California, today we basically list and ship roughly around 15% of the market. There's obviously still 85% of the market that needs to be serviced. And so a lot of them are self-distributing, and we want to help them be able to list on our marketplace, transact, manage their payments. And over time, we're going to need more space wherever it is. And so we're thinking we'll probably just build out more expansion square footage in Central California, since land is cheaper, real estate's cheaper, and et cetera. So that's where we're generally thinking about putting in more space if we had to.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, one of you guys' big value proposition of being able to handle that. I mean, there's a software aspect, but just speaking in terms of distribution, it's such a difficult thing in any of the markets. I live in Washington, I obviously work a lot in California, but distribution is an issue in this industry. There's so many different parts of this industry that are fragmented. But when you look at the state of California, just the sheer geography of it, it is such a large state. When you initially set out to be like, all right, we're going to have a distribution company in the cannabis space, do you feel like, I don't know, just the vision has grown along with like the understanding of just how big this industry and how big the state is? Or did you kind of anticipate from the start, like, this is going to be a mountain and we're going to conquer this?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've sort of grown up with the rest of the industry here. So at the time, we only saw it being so large. And then as the industry kept growing, more operators started coming to space, more consumer demand pulled more production out from the supply side, and obviously made our challenges a lot greater too. And so, I guess I've been kept busy for the past couple of years. And I think there will be a lot more growth too for this market, both in California and across the nation. So, what we're doing today, we really want to continue to maintain a platform that is sort of even keeled, unbiased, like, I guess, agnostic, if you will, where, we can serve as many operators as possible without, sort of creating conflicts of interest amongst the brands we serve and the retailers we serve on the marketplace side.
And then, one of my questions I had, like, because you guys are in just about every product that you guys carry is in just about every retailer in the state of California, but there's obviously quite a bit of brands. So when it comes to like the ideal retail partner, I mean, it's clearly the answer to that is everybody if you look at the numbers, but what is kind of the ideal partner on the brand side to work with Nabis?
Yeah, I mean, the ideal brand partner, I think it's someone who, it can be brands of all shapes and sizes. Our portfolio consists of, if you're looking at like categories, we do everything from flower products, vapes, concentrates, edibles, and a good chunk of beverages as well. But, I think from like a philosophical standpoint, brands really, what we like to see is when brands like to take control of their own messaging, their own marketing, tell their own story to their own customers, and really try to make an effort to sell their products. And for us, we'll help support along the way, whether it be order management or, helping them with financing or helping them get exposure to the market, even from a marketing standpoint. We'll do all of that. But ultimately, we know what we don't do best is tell someone else's story for them. So that's the part we really would like to pass back to the brand, and hopefully that they're aligned on that one, which they should be, because it's their own company and their own products they're making.
Absolutely. In this space, there's so many hats that, from a brand perspective, hats that you need to wear, from sales to marketing to just product development to distribution. It's nice to be able to offload that to a trusted partner, again, considering how difficult that is in the state of California. Again, just size wise, there's a lot of brands that you see become regional, not necessarily, I think, by their goal, but just simply it's too big. The state's too big for them to accurately handle by themselves. And I mean, you see brands of, whether they're large or big, right? You need to add so much more infrastructure and staff to be able to support that. It's nice to be able to lean on companies like yourself. And so when it comes to smaller brands or larger brands, do you feel like both of them can still lean on you guys the same way? Or do you feel like there's kind of an advantage for bigger brands to work with you, or just similar across the board?
It's a good question. Larger brands definitely do have an advantage, but I think they sort of allow the smaller brands to exist as well on our platform. So, while obviously a larger brand already has customer loyalty, it has its place in the market. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been large in the first place. They're super well resourced. They, generally can get into doors pretty easily. But there's still areas we can help them to get into a lot of different regions of the state as well that they might not have been selling into. And then for a smaller brand, I think, while it might seem to be that some of the larger brands take up more of the volume and sort of mind space on our platform, at the end of the day, the smaller brands wouldn't be able to get the same rates that they do if it weren't for some of the larger brands who help establish these like larger delivery routes. And so the smaller brands get to piggyback on some of these routes that otherwise they'd be paying out the ass for. And so, at the end of the day, there's sort of a symbiotic relation to just ultimately for any brand to be part of a larger portfolio. But as long as like their story, their product story and vision doesn't get diluted by that, I think it makes a lot of sense from a cost perspective.
No, that makes complete sense. And then for you guys, what is kind of the ideal process for working with brands on inventory in terms of what they keep on hand at their manufacturing facilities and what you guys keep on hand in your facilities?
Yeah. We try to, we see all ranging across the board. Obviously it's cheaper to produce a lot more, but then cannabis still has a finite shelf life. So, what we try to do is anywhere from 30 to 45 days is what we like to keep on hand in our facilities. And it's based upon historical sales volumes and turnover rates or like sell-through rates for brands on our platform. And so that's typically what we like to manage at a time.
And is that something you guys work with on that data? Is them even helping conceptualize like, okay, this is what you guys are moving on a 30 or 40 day, like this 45-day scale? Or you feel like that's something that they kind of bring to the table to you guys?
Yeah. We work at it from all angles, and we try to evaluate it from different data sets. So, we obviously have our own data, and we try to inform brands, but brands generally know how much they're going to be able to sell. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they just have larger ambitions, of course, to their credit, and we want to obviously help support them in that. But, I think the unbiased lens is, we'll look at BDS data or headset data to just get a sense of what their historical sales are. But I think the toughest to evaluate is when they're first onboarding onto our platform, because we don't have any of their historical sales information. And so we kind of have to like search around on the market for it, or just, take their word for it. But yeah, generally that's a bit of a guesswork, but over time we start smoothing things out and get the inventory on hand levels a lot more accurate.
Absolutely. And then for you guys, obviously distributing from the distribution centers to the stores is one part of the business, but you guys also pick up product from the cultivators and the manufacturers as well, correct?
Yep, exactly.
And
We do. Yeah. So we on the way out, when we go do the last mile deliveries to stores, we'll pick up products anywhere across the state as well for our suppliers. And then we'll centralize it, check it into our warehouse system, and then pick and pack and ship as soon as orders come in, booked against those units.
And then, obviously cannabis is being cultivated, and then there's, manufacturing facilities all across the state. Where do you feel like you see the most mass, or I guess a volume of products being created at? Is it out in the desert? Is it in the LA? Is it up in NorCal? Is it really evenly spread across the board?
Yeah. I mean, when we first started, it was definitely more NorCal, like northern NorCal, up in like Mendo or like Humboldt, Arcata, that area. But then as time sort of went on, I think it was around like late 2019, like 2 years into the rec market, we started seeing a lot more indoor grow operations and greenhouse operations in Southern California. And so, now I actually personally think there's a lot more cannabis activity that's been, or maybe it's just been the growth rate of the cannabis activity in Southern California has been much stronger than Northern California's. I see a lot of grow operations out in the desert and in desert hot springs. I see, a lot out in like Santa Barbara or like San Luis Obispo, close by the coasts, where the climate's also good. But yeah, generally I started seeing them all over. But at the end of the day, I think there's still across the board, probably like only 65, or I don't think so. Like close to 70% of municipalities have even legalized cannabis in California. So there's, about a third of the whole state's cities still don't have any cannabis activity. So that's where I think a lot of the big opportunity is, whether it be cultivation or even retail.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think a lot of people still don't understand that, whether they're in the state or out of the state of California, looking at it, is still understanding there's a lot of counties that are opting out, whether it's cultivation, retail, or everything all together. I know there's a couple delivery companies that thrive in some of those areas where there's no retail, that they have that type of strategic advantage. And so also something else I saw that you guys did recently is rolled out the marketing through your guys' platform, through the marketplace.
Yeah.
I know that's something that you guys have been working on for a while, but just kind of released. Is that something you guys beta tested for a while, or just rolled it all out at once?
Yeah, we kind of just rolled it all out at once. We sort of, for our business, we always like to start off with like, we call it just MVP, minimal viable product. And so about a year ago, we launched our marketplace platform and got a few of our best-selling brands who are really gun-ho about, being able to have an online menu through Nabis list there. And then over time, it's actually been, a huge boon to our business. A lot of brands find success with it. There's about 8,000 active SKUs selling on the platform. Retailers love, this is where small brands also can benefit. Retailers love to just like purchase products that they know already, like the Raw Gardens of the world, like the Buddies, Ember Valleys. But then on the site, while they're purchasing, they get recommended other products, or they'll just like browse and see and scan the list of like the other hundreds of products out there. So then they can, try out, little bits here and there of it. And because it's all bundled together, the smaller brands don't have to pay these larger minimum order delivery fees or service charges. They get to sort of piggyback on a larger order and still get that marketing exposure, whether it be samples or just like a small case pack order to a retailer.
Absolutely. And there's very few in the realm of marketing or reaching an audience in this space. There's very few options. And when you have something that narrow, right, who on the other end of your guys' platform, it's buyers, right? It's directly speaking to retail buyers. There's very few places you can guarantee where 100% of the audience is going to be a retail buyer.
Yep.
Is it something that you guys are noticing too, where it's brands, like I know you said brands are getting exposure, but are you guys starting to notice that on the data where stores aren't necessarily carrying a brand and then they find it through that marketplace and then all of a sudden they pick that up as a regular on the shelf?
Yeah, no, we see that all the time. I mean, I think, when about 2 years ago, since Q1, even 2019, so it's been, I guess, like 3 years now, the average number of brands that a retailer purchase on our platform, each order will only have one brand. Now it's each order has 2 brands, but then every quarter a retailer now purchases about 4 times more brands than they used to on our platform. So, they used to start with about like 2.5 brands per quarter that they found on Nabis. Now it's about 10.3 brands per quarter that they purchase. So, it's definitely demonstrating that the product discovery component is really strong. And it's not like most other marketplaces where they don't have the full control and management of that inventory. We have live inventory, and that's all that data is plugged into the marketplace. So as a retailer, while you're purchasing raw garden, you can actually know that this product actually exists, and Nabis will guarantee the fulfillment of the product. And so it's this sort of end-to-end purchasing experience where you get to discover products, purchase them all together, receive them all together, and pay for it all together, rather than having to go to each supplier separately to manage all of that.
Yeah, and I definitely know that there's an issue with a lot of other platforms of not having a live inventory, of ordering stuff. It's not there, having to switch out. And
Yeah.
so that's definitely a big benefit. And then so what that looks like for you guys, like it's a tool for retailers, obviously, to just, to place orders and find inventory to plug or find products to fill their inventory. But then on the brand side, they actually have a link or a way to clearly to send out this menu to people where people can just purchase straight through there.
Yep, exactly. So there's a couple ways to view things. I mean, first is just if a retailer can just log on to the general marketplace and they can browse and search. And then the other is, like you said, a brand can basically send out a link of just their own storefront on the Nabis marketplace so that only their products are listed. And then each rep can also have their own shareable, like rep specific link so that they get the cred and the commission for making that sale. So it's basically the cart. It's like their cart essentially.
Okay. So it's similar. It's not affiliate marketing, but similar where it's trackable links.
Yep, exactly.
I love that. I know we were just happened to be talking a couple of weeks ago. I was talking about the Washington market, and I'll tell you out here, it's not uncommon for a Google sheet to be used and that to be sent out to multiple people, and then it's manually subtracted from multiple salespeople. And then that issue of when it comes out, all the stores want their product, and then it's a fight over, well, I sold that.
Yeah,
I sold it. Who has the stronger relationship? And
yeah. No, that was how California worked for like a good few years. And I think still a lot of businesses who self-distribute especially will do that too. But once your SKUs, for instance, like Buddy's has like 500 different SKUs now. They launched with us in California with 58, I think. Now it's close to 500. There's no way that a Google Sheet is going to be able to support that.
Yeah, and when it comes to them, that vape cartridge or that concentrate category, right, where it's just all of those companies are constantly churning. Some maintain the same couple strains, but a lot of those it's based on the supply and demand of the raw materials to make what they're making. And so I could totally understand any vape cartridge company. It's from doing some marketing on the other side, it's very difficult to be like, okay, you have this strain, and like, well, we did last week. I don't know if I'll ever have it again. So we're coming up with something new.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I mean, that's just one, that's one of the many instances of how fragmented this marketplace is. Where do you see you guys fitting in kind of the ever expanding legalization across the country?
Yeah, I mean, we've always operated in California to date, mainly because we just felt like there was so much work left to do here. But we're definitely keeping an eye on other states, and we're always like keeping up to date on just new regs that come out and new states that legalize. And so, for us, what we're looking at is really the East Coast. And we've been spending a lot of time over on the upstate, like New England side of things, whether, just general tri-state area. So like New York, Connecticut, Mass, New Jersey. There's a lot of like regulatory activity there. And, we tend to think that the regulatory structure is pretty favorable towards, our business model to be able to go and support that economy, support their larger social equity missions and small business missions, and be able to really drive a lot of value for that economy. So we're keeping a close eye there. But so far in the meantime, we're just going to be continuing to grow out in California.
Well, I think you guys will be positioned pretty well off of experience with, California, is the most competitive marketplace out there on a brand perspective, whether you're ancillary or brand, right? It's very, very competitive. And, the size of like a Massachusetts, right, compared to the state of California
Yeah.
is a night and day difference in terms of just the amount of area that you need to cover.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think, given we have all of the infrastructure, all the technology here, we're going to continue to try to put it to more use before investing into a new state just yet, and a lot of it's just bandwidth as well. We don't want to spread ourselves too thin and then lose grip of our team here in California. So we just want to be careful about that.
What are some of the challenges, I guess, beyond just the geographic size of a state, but what are some of the challenges kind of surrounding distribution in this market?
You mean within California?
Well,
or
I meant within this industry, but or specific to California, either or.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think particularly to our sector and like distribution and wholesaling, we've sort of boiled down the problem into, two major issues. And I think this goes beyond just cannabis as well. I think in wholesaling in general, it comes down to like, there's a lot of complexity and there's a lot of risk, because the complexity comes because, it's every order, every deal is sort of like bargained on, negotiated between buyer and seller. The quantities always change, and it's very bespoke. And then the risk side is also because, these aren't, $50 orders you walk into a store as a consumer to buy. These are like sometimes $10,000 orders or like $100,000 orders, depending on who is buying. And, they'll be extending credit terms and payment terms. And so you got to be careful who you're doing business with. Otherwise, you're going to lose all that money and have given away that much in free product. So, for us, we always try to boil our solutions down to, those few problems. And today, I think in California, those problems still largely exist. Like you said, there's still a lot of offline order taking. We're trying to bring more of that online. And then with, credit risk and things like that, we're trying to use our data to really help our suppliers be able to evaluate who the best customers are to work with and prioritize their orders that way. And then beyond that, I think, it's just helping the supply chain be more stable. Us as an infrastructure as a service business, if we falter or stumble, it hurts everyone else along the way. So, we always try to pay attention to the rules of the game too. If regulations don't make sense for our partners, it also doesn't make sense for us. And lately there's been a big movement around trying to lower tax rates, especially on the cultivation side, that I think is really stifling the industry. So that's something that we're putting a lot of resources into to work with legislators to get down and ultimately be able to help also just on the flip side, improve retail access points too, and help more municipalities be able to create legal cannabis frameworks for operators.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's tough for the consumer, right? There's the big conversation where they're saying to help curb the black market, bring this cost down for consumers, and there's not really many places you can carve out the cost as we described. Distribution is a task based on the size. Real estate, energy cost, there's not really much you can do about that. And so ultimately it comes down to those taxes. But on the capital side, I know that's something, the financing, I know that's a service that you guys offer. What kind of birthed that, or what was the inspiration of adding that to the business?
Yeah, I think for that one, it's also just because banking didn't exist. And we knew we had all of the, and it doesn't exist for like one, regulatory reasons, but two, also that a lot of even private lenders don't want to give decent rates to cannabis businesses because they don't know how to underwrite a loan or like don't know how to assess the credit risk of an asset or like a accounts receivable. And so for us, because we handle the on the ground, all the dirty work of actually working with retailers to collect payments, like we have firsthand knowledge of credit worthiness. And so we have sort of this informational asymmetry compared to the market that informs us and gives us better intel into whether or not something is going to default or not. And so as a result of that, we wanted to help out our suppliers and, putting our data against the decisions we made to provide liquidity to our suppliers. That's what birthed that idea. And, a lot of suppliers were asking for, something like that too. So I think it's been a good growth engine for a lot of them.
Yeah, I can totally see that. It makes sense. Like on the outside looking in, sometimes, I think we've talked about it before, so it makes sense to me. But initially, before I had first talked to you about that in the past, it was like distribution, wholesale, capital. How's that fit in there? But it makes sense when you're looking at the data. And I also understand that's another in regards to what you guys initially started this company for, is to address pain points, is that capital is a pain point, and I think a lot of people also mistake like growing brands, right? Like as a brand grows or a cultivator grows, they're getting that money back on net 30, net 60, whatever the terms are, and sometimes not getting that money back depending on who they're working with. But you have to consistently reinvest in either building out your facility, or if you're like a concentrate company, reinvest in bulk material. And as you grow, you're having to reinvest more money while you're waiting for money to come back. So, I mean, that's kind of, I guess, where you guys enter, right?
Exactly. Because, a lot of these smaller brands, especially, they work on like a single line of working capital. So once they go put it into product, sell it, they're sitting on their hands for a few days, for like 30 days, only to just then get paid and then start producing again. By that time, product's already sold at retail, the shelf's empty. And that's not the best way to create a brand when there's gaps in product availability for the consumer. And so that was like the starting point. And then, over time, it's like you said, it's, access to capital is a big issue in the space. And, it sort of points to a broader story as well around, just seeing a lot of operators, some of my friends as well, who I started, operating this industry with, who have lost control of their businesses to, sharky creditors. Who, if they make one false move, they gain control of their business and like all of their equity, and kick out the original entrepreneurs who started it with, their blood, sweat, and tears. And so, when we built this business, I mean, we try to be agnostic. So we actually won't go through and take over a business if they don't pay us. So, I think a lot of suppliers see us as more of a benevolent creditor in that respect. In the sense that, we just charge them a fair rate, and, we're not here to run their business for them. We're just here to help.
Not sharks in the water out here trying to eat everybody up.
Exactly.
And I think it's interesting too, because if I remember correctly, at the start of Nabis, you guys were obviously much smaller scale, but you were physically out there doing a lot of the deliveries and pickups as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. Those are some good old days. I wish I could still get out there and spend the time with our retail customers, but it's not always worth the time these days. But sometimes, if it's like an old customer, or like, if I'm in town or something like that, I'll pop into a store and check up on things and say, hey, and be like a ghost shopper. But otherwise, I'm always behind a computer, whether it's for good or worse.
Yeah. No, that's interesting, because do you feel like that gave you like a good understanding, I guess, from this industry, from being on the ground? Because a lot of people that'll come in on the tech side or hold the CEO title that yourself have, there's a lot of people that haven't worked on the ground floor. So would you attribute a lot of your understanding the full ecosystem as being on the ground at the start of the company?
Yeah, definitely. While, at that time we were contemplating, building some software, automating things, but we needed to learn, and we needed to meet people. We needed to hear their pain points out firsthand. And so, by doing that, I think it built beyond just giving us the education and learning to build the software the right way. It was also just establish a culture internally within our company that you need to roll up your sleeves, get hands-on, and learn from the ground up. And a lot of our executives, when they join the company, they're really eager to actually just jump in a car, ride along with one of our drivers, and just like see how the sausage is made before they go make some high level decisions and wave their wands and affect a lot of people. And so, I think it's built a good culture of I think humility, and also just like basics, getting back to basics of what problem solving is.
It's that Costco model, man. Go push some carts before you hop in the office, man, and understand what it's like.
Exactly.
You just mentioned, you're on the computer all day. I tell you this every time I talk to you. You're the only person I can email like at midnight, and you reply back within 10 minutes. I've always been a late worker, and I had this weird strategy early on when I did my outreach. I was like, I want to be the first email in the morning, and I'm not a morning person, so I can never win it. I'll never get up in time. So I got to send my stuff late. You're always responding late. What is kind of your average day? Like day to day, and I'm sure it changes pretty drastically.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would say like the hours are probably like from 8 a.m. to like, I'd say on average maybe like 11 p.m., 12 a.m. But I'll have like, lunch, dinner, go to the bathroom. It's not like it's not like that where I'm like just
Yeah.
glued. But yeah, and then throughout the day, I have a list of things. I just keep a simple to-do list. So I just have a list of things that are like burning priorities that either I need to take care of or I need to check up on. And then throughout the day, I also have like meetings and like, do talks and interviews and like this. But then in like in the in between, I try to save like 20 or 30 minutes in case like a meeting goes over or there's some like fire that needs my immediate attention that I'll need to prioritize. And sometimes it's not even like a fire. Sometimes it's like admin work. Like, I need to sign some papers to buy a vehicle even. That's obviously a showstopper for the operations team if they don't have this equipment. So I need to get that thing done. It's I guess taking a step back, I sort of have this mental framework of like, it's called like the Eisenhower decision-making matrix, where you have like this like it's like a Punnett square. It's like a quadrant of like important versus urgent. And I try to spend most of my time in like the non-urgent but highly important things.
Mhm.
Those are like more strategic, but those require some time and some like mental headspace to like really wrap your head around those problems and like work through solutions. But then a lot of my day to day ends up being like urgent and important things that I need to take care of. Because that's also when everyone else is working. But at night, I'll revert back to like the highly important strategic things, and then I try to delegate the rest.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look at what you call the Eisenhower. What was that?
Eisenhower decision making matrix.
All right, I'm gonna have to look that up because I feel like that's common for anyone, no matter what title you're at. Right? There's that
Yep.
important stuff that's not urgent
Yep.
consistently gets pushed to the bottom of the list for the urgent thing.
Totally. And then you're always just treading water.
Yeah, I can associate with that feeling quite a bit of times in my life. What is it taken on the brand building side, to take a
Yeah.
step back of building the brand of Nabis and getting the word out there? Like what's kind of gone into that, and how has that progressed over the years?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, we are always our best advocates, and so yeah, first it was just distribution, wholesaling, B2B. It's not really like the sexiest headlining, grabbing, stories out there, but for us, we wanted to be a bit more. I mean, I think our solution was very different compared to traditional distributors out there. So it made for an interesting story. And also we were like young Asian guys in the cannabis space, especially a distribution, which is like a, old school supply chain sector, basically. And so, we definitely stuck out like a sore thumb. And so, I would just, I had some connections with reporters from my previous company that I built. And then, by going to events and stuff, I would just like meet with other folks who are in media across the board. And I would just, do talks and like just share my story, talk about the vision of the company and where we're going and some of the progress we've made. And over time, I think that's built up a good drumbeat for, our business. And as more customers started to evangelize our business as well, those network effects were stronger than anything that I could personally, push out on my end unilaterally. And so, at the end of the day, I think today at least, the most scalable version of marketing and building the brand is just providing the best quality of service and making our customers happy, because it's better for someone else to tell you to say that you're good than for you to say it about yourself. So yeah, that's what we try our best to do.
Absolutely, and I think from the outside looking in, I think you guys have done a really good job at that, and I also say like operating in such a difficult space at the scale you guys have. It's funny, like when we first met, like it was like, wow, these guys are doing like a difficult thing at an impressive scale. And it's just funny, you know, a couple years later, it's like pales into comparison where you're at now,
Yeah,
in terms of the scale. But I think that's, you know, again, from the outside looking in to see something, it's not like you guys are this mega behemoth of a company, but to do something at a scale that's difficult,
yep,
like I think kind of speaks for itself, you know, at least from my
totally,
perspective.
totally, yeah. But like I said earlier, it's just getting started. This industry's got a long way to go, and we'll do our best to continue to support it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what do you guys feel like is kind of next? I mean, I know you're looking at potentially some other markets and continue to refine in California, but in your mind, what are some of those next steps, or what is kind of on the agenda for this upcoming year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the couple things you mentioned. Those are like the big ticket items. Beyond that, I think it's just continue to develop like a lot of the bells and whistles of our platform, whether it be more sophisticated promotion structures, better credit systems. So a lot more sophistication of what we're already doing. Because at the end of the day, as our business gets larger, we actually have more data to support what we're doing. So we always want to validate and continue to improve the products that we offer to our customers. And and beyond that, I think we want to be a good advocate for the industry. I think in the beginning we were always we're always just like trying to survive, and like we had our hands full, just like making ends meet. And these days, while it's always still a struggle, I think there's a bit more headspace, I think, to help out some of the smaller operators in this industry who are just getting going. I think working with the government, regulatory bodies within California and outside to help structure the right incentives for not just short-term but long-term success for the whole supply chain, I think will be a big priority for us as well this year.
Great, man. I look forward to watching the continued growth. Man, definitely rooting for you up here, and excited to see the growth from, I know it's coming, the impending growth outside of the state, but even still to continually capture more of the market. I think you guys are solving some big issues and bringing a lot of value to the space.
Thanks, man. But yeah, no, appreciate the time, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you for hopping on here today, Vince. For everyone out there that wants to find out more information, nabis.com, nabis.com. I really appreciate founder and CEO Vince joining us today. Until next time, we'll see you guys.